In 1893, Ivan Pavlov noticed that the dogs he was researching began to salivate when someone entered the room. This is because a person entering the room was associated with the dogs being given meat. Yum! Pavlov started ringing the bell every time meat was given to the dogs, and eventually the dogs began to salivate upon hearing the bell, and thus classical conditioning was born. Later, in 1905, Edward Thorndike conducted an experiment with a cat in a puzzle box. The cat wanted to get the fish outside the box, so they experimented with various methods to get out of the box until discovering the lever which opened the door. The cat became increasingly faster at using the lever to escape the box. This was called the law of effect, which suggests that if someone receives a positive consequence or response to an action, then they will continue doing the same things to get the same response. However, if they receive a negative consequence or response, then they will experiment with actions until they receive a positive one. In 1913, John Watson coined the term behaviorism. He conducted an experiment on a 9-month-old child called Little Albert to explore the effects of classical conditioning on emotional responses. Albert was introduced to several different animals and initially showed no fear. Watson and Rayner then made loud, frightening sounds anytime Albert saw the white rat, which led to Albert crying and screaming in response to seeing the animal even without the loud sound. And this explains classical conditioning on emotional responses. In 1948, B.F. Skinner, who is considered the father of operant conditioning, introduced the idea of reinforcement, which increases the frequency of a behavior, and extinction, which decreases the frequency of a behavior because of the absence of a reinforcer. The Skinner box was an experiment where hungry rats had to push a lever to release a food pellet. After a few times of accidentally pressing the lever, the rats began purposely pushing the lever because the behavior was reinforced with the dispensing of food. And thus, operant conditioning was born. In 1963, Albert Benter developed the social learning theory. This theory states that children learn through observation and modeling of things in their environment. Bandura also thought that positive and negative reinforcement will not be successful if they do not match the child's needs and desires. He demonstrated this in the Bobo doll experiment. Various groups of children perceived adults behaving either violently or passively towards the Bobo doll, and then they were put into the room to see how they would interact with the Bobo doll themselves. The study showed that the children who viewed the aggressive model behaved more aggressively towards the Bobo doll compared to the children who viewed the passive model. And thus, social learning theory was born. Then, the 1970s saw a rapid decline in the prominence of behaviorism, and the birth of constructivism took place. And ever since, behaviorism has not been as popularly used as it once was.